Hello everyone, in this video we will be talking about how this NCP Google Spreadsheet tool helps us in the documentation of intervention. Please note that this tool is only meant to help us with the process of calculations and documentation, but not actually replace us for the critical thinking process. Now on intervention, this tool helps us in this tab, INT, and there are actually 7 major sections in this tool. The first will be the documentation section, followed by the etiology. The third, goal and prescription. The fourth, counseling. The fifth, the meal plans. The sixth and seventh, which is actually a markup and recipe. They are both unfinished concept. And finally, the seventh part, a list of educational materials links available. Let's have a look at how this tool actually helps us to fasten the intervention process. Now, usually in a dime, our intervention will initially start with the nutrition goal and nutrition prescription. And in our dietetics care note, we will usually write down the dosing weight of the person. Next, if they are education, we'll start typing down the education, and any counseling needed, we'll type in the counseling. And if there's a need for nutrition delivery, we'll also have meal plans over here. So let's start with, let's say, the goal of our nutrition plan is actually to induce caloric deficit for weight loss, and yes, to induce caloric deficit for weight loss for the purpose of demonstration. That's what we'll be putting. And for this prescription part, there's a little bit of problem. You can have a look at the previous video on diagnosis, nutrition diagnosis, to see what the problem actually is. But we can easily fix this by copying and pasting paste special or paste value only, and editing it over here. 1400 kcal, protein 1.2 gram per kilogram body weight, and the protein fiber, all this we can delete, and fiber 25 gram, the sources being MNT. This is just a sample, it's not meant to reflect a real case. The dosing weight will be put at 90 kilogram if the comparative standard that's used in the nutrition diagnosis here is not actually RNI, so any other sources other than RNI, then the dosing weight will immediately appear as the actual weight of the patient. If you would like to change the dosing weight, you can also just use the copy and paste special, paste values format to change that dosing weight. Now, if we return to the dime here, we'll see the intervention, goal being the induced caloric deficit, etc. Prescription, as below, and then next is, let's start with the nutrition education and application. You can either choose from the variety of topics that are available here, carbohydrate counting, carbohydrate sources, and etc., or you can type in one yourself. So let's have a example for each. Let's say if we are typing CKD and the type of materials that we want to use is a educational flip chart. If the educational flip chart is available for the CKD, a link will be displayed here. But the link is not being displayed, so there is no educational flip chart available in this Google spreadsheet for CKD. So let's try pamphlet instead. Again, there is no pamphlet, and perhaps a video link. There are no videoing as well. Let's try other. Let's say carbohydrate counting in a educational flip chart format. Again, there are no links for it. You can come over here to check the links that are available for each of them. So FTT definitely would have an educational flip chart. So let's try that. You can immediately type by FTT, and we want an educational flip chart. The link should display, but I think I actually deleted the formula necessary for it to display the link here. So what you can do instead is just come over here and then just open this link. Immediately the educational material will be directed to that corresponding link. And one thing to note is that this educational material is actually by DN116 or DN117 because it will not update by itself, so that's one thing that you have to change. If you do like to use this tool, specifically the educational part, that's one part that you have to change. The link will have to be changed to the educational material that you would like. In my experience, this feature is not very helpful because it takes a while to actually load all these things. You need an active internet connection, and most of the time we don't have that time in an actual clinical setting, but at least that's the concept that we wanted to build on. If we can actually make an app where we can overcome this slow internet speed problem, then that might be an idea worth working with. Next, you can see here nutrition educational application, what I've written, FTT. Then we can actually put another remark saying that specifically on how to increase calorie intake. It will also be written how to increase calorie intake. Let me just delete this for nutrition first. How to increase calorie intake. The same goes for every other things that we can put in. We are teaching the person carbohydrate counting as well as given meal plan example, and we are also teaching them on dyslipidemia given pamphlet. That will also be displayed over here. Next is the counseling. Counseling part. This theory, you can put it in. You can also not. You can also leave it blank. Let's try if we put it in trans-theoretical purpose. You choose it for a specific purpose, and if you anything that you would like to say about this model, you can put it there. And then motivational interviewing, encourage motivation. If you put in a remark at any of the corresponding strategies here, it will be displayed here. Nutrition counseling would say based on trans-theoretical model to purpose 1 via motivational interviewing / encourage motivation. But there isn't enough space to display here, so let's go over to this NCP and have a look at the intervention part over here. Motivational interview, encourage motivation. The 3 here is actually a typo error, so we'll fix that later on. Now next is the nutrition delivery. Okay, nutrition delivery, you can either choose from the variety of hospital meals available here. For this one, this is the HKJ hospital meal as of 1st October 2020. So that meal can vary for the different choices. As in different hospitals will have different meals. That's one thing that we'll have to account for later on. They actually extract the data from this tab over here called the HKJ meal plan. You can also modify this tab to become your own hospital meals. So under normal, you would just change all these things, and when you come back here to intervention and you choose the normal option, then the things would display accordingly. All these things will display accordingly. So if you change, say, the soft option in this HKJ meal plan, or the diabetic option, those changes will also be reflected in your intervention meal plan choices. Now you see here that this NCP, although there is a 3, but the food and nutrition delivery is actually not being entered. So that's one typo we'll have to fix later. But let's say another event where we are not actually feeding the patient a normal diet, but instead giving a prescribed diet ourselves. So let's say given diet X, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4. Now you see that in this NCP right here, again, this food and nutrition delivery given diet X, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4. If you are designing your own menu plan, then that's something that you can put in over here. Later on, we'll teach how to fix this typo error. Actually, we can just show it now. Again, copy and paste special with paste value only, and we can edit it over here. Then the changes would be reflected in your NCP sheet over at the front here. So everything is nicely put without anything being put at places that it don't belong. Let's now come back to other features in this intervention. This etiology part is actually just meant for you to refer to as you give the patient your intervention. So the etiologies here is physiological causes increasing nutrient needs due to CKD or lack or limited prior nutrition related education. So we'll see that, then we'll think, okay, nutrition education and application is relevant, then we'll start typing in all those things. Here are some of the concepts that I tried to work with, but didn't actually manage to finish it. Market is essentially a concept that I designed initially for any meal plans that are apart from hospital meal plans. So the market is meant as a budgeting tool for our patient. So if we prescribe, say, a certain diet for the patient, there are rice, tofu, and chicken inside of it with a specific amount, this market section is supposed to compute the rough range of price that the patient would need for a single day, and then multiply it to a single month, and so on and so forth. So the patient would have an idea as to how much they have to spend and where they can find the ingredients that they want for the diet that you actually prescribe. This recipe here is for patients who are bored with eating one ingredient. So I tried to actually connect it with an online recipe site database, which didn't actually manage to make it work. So that's one thing that potentially can be explored in the future. And what it essentially would do is immediately, okay, I want a Chinese cooking style, and then it would give me to choose a Chinese cooking style. Once I punch that into here, this cell, the link corresponding will display. All I have to do is just click and then send it to the patient. The patient can prepare the recipe by themselves, or at least I can refer to it as I teach the patient, so that it will be more accurate in my education. Next is all this stuff, number of feet, blah blah blah. All these things, all these numbers can be ignored. Is another concept that actually wasn't even clear on the concept board. So that's one thing you can ignore or just delete when you use the tool yourself. Okay, so that's all for the intervention tool. Again, they are the documentation section that takes the data from Grow and Prescription, Nutrition, Education, and Application, and Counselling, and put it into, as well as Meal Plan, which is called Food and Nutrition Delivery in this Adime part. Let me just make sure that it still has the formula inside, and construct sentences out of it. Etiology is for your reference during your prescription of intervention. Meal plan, the hospital meals are only dependent on the HKJ meal plan that's available now. You can edit that meal plan inside this HKJ meal plan. My suggestion is, if it's too tedious to do it, then don't bother doing it in this Google spreadsheet, and have a hard copy of that meal plan on your own ready to go. Market, recipe, and all these weird numbers are just concepts that are not finished. And here is a list of educational materials with links that you can access. Most of them are from the D116 and 117 materials. That's all for this video. I hope you find it helpful. See you in the next one.